And we are live. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Episode Club. Today we are going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 2, The Kingsroad. Joining me are my panel and special guests, as always. We have Milt, Living My Rhapsody, and Johnny Be Crazy. And whoever wants to start to do their intros, please do.
All right, I'll go ahead. I'm Johnny Be Crazy. What's up, everyone? You might have seen me around, or maybe you haven't. Just look at my face. Go subscribe. You'll love it. All right. Thank you so much, Kenzie, for having me on. We're going to be talking the Kingsroad today, and I'm very excited. Just love Game of Thrones. I just want to say hey to everyone in the chat, and that's pretty much it. Next. Don't everybody hit the button at one time.
I guess I unmuted for a second. Okay. What do I say? Well, everybody who is here probably knows me. If you don't know me, then click on the icon and you'll get to know me a little bit more. What do? I do Westworld with Johnny, and I'm going to be doing actually some stuff on Doctor Who. So if we have any Doctor Who lovers, stuff is, pending. We'll see what's going to happen after we are done with Westworld. Exactly. So Westworld on Mondays. I guess that's it. Milt?
Hey everybody, it's Milt from the Citadel Trivia. Just wanted to say hi, and I'm happy to be here on this panel discussing the Kingsroad, everyone. Besides the trivia stuff, I also partake in Game of Thrones panels talking about basically a variety of subjects. So anyway, you can find me basically on lots of channels.
Yeah, we don't bring the BS here, okay? We're just straight shooters.
All right.
Yes, straight shooters.
Kenzie? I think she froze.
I think she froze.
Okay.
It's okay.
So today, go ahead, Johnny. You want to go ahead?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. So today, until Kenzie comes back, we are doing second episode of Season 1, Game of Thrones, called Kingsroad. The first scene starts with Dany and Jorah on the road with the Dothraki Khalasar, where Jorah talks to her about ghost grass and kind of makes small talk while Dany looks miserable on that horse. Any comments on it until Kenzie comes back?
I'd like to say that was the first scene in which Jorah starts to basically, admit his feelings towards Dany, and he's slowly stepping into the friend zone from episode 2 onwards.
Yeah, I like the scene, and we get to hear about the ghost grass from a Shah that one day may cover the world. I thought it's interesting how she is, how it's described to her. The stalks are pale milk, and they light up the night, like bioluminescence. You could almost equate that to Dany. Maybe she's gonna destroy the earth, possibly with her dragons. I don't know. She'll be the ghost grass, but I don't know. I'm
Interesting.
I'm going a little crazy here.
Like you should be. Like your name, Johnny Be Crazy. So Johnny, please be crazy for us. Live up to your name.
Well, we'll hear a little more about the Shadowlands, but unfortunately, all we get are hints and little bitty tidbits about it throughout the show. At this point, we wish, I'm still wondering if we're going to get a lot of things from the book. So, that's pretty much it about this scene. It wasn't. Go ahead, Mackenzie, on the first scene.
When we have Daenerys and Jorah talking about this, it's kind of him telling her, like, this is how they work and like, this is what they do. So he's talking about how this is how you'll function with these people. Like, I know where you come from, and I know sort of what you know about these people, and this is how I can teach you about them. And like Milt said, it's kind of his stepping into the friend zone at this point. Like, even though he's already in it, it's like him realizing that he's already in this friend zone, and he has to be like a father figure towards her in the situation.
Yeah, and he mentions to her as she kind of stares at Drogo, like just riding. She's like, oh, well, maybe not that, but she's just like, she doesn't look too well. And he tells her that it gets better, and like, how does he know? Like, it's kind of we see her as a very kind of on a bottom, broken person, just kind of like unhappy with life. Just kind of, she's been sold. She feels like a slave. She just has nowhere to go because she could try escaping, but it's not gonna do her any good. So we see her. She's portrayed like a, I don't want to say victim, but somebody without any options, completely at the bottom of everything. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I also basically like to give a shout out an honorable mention to the Dothraki equivalent of the Sand Snakes. You know, where we have Barry, Doria, and Shikri. Okay, so I call them the Dothraki Sand Snakes for that. You know, just basically 3 women. So anyway, they kind of hang out with a more dominant female, which is basically Daenerys in this case versus Ilaria Sand in the other case. And I like to ask a more serious question, which is, we also get introduced basically to Viserys' thoughts on how he would have treated basically poachers, right? Because Jorah told him in the scene how he was sent into exile because he sold some poachers that was on Beron. He caught some poachers on Beron and to some slavers, and Ned Stark found out about it, and basically he had to escape. Otherwise, he was going to be beheaded. And how Viserys said that well, if I was in charge, you would not get punished for that. So I'd like to hear your thoughts about that, because it is kind of like an interesting dichotomy between Viserys and how he would act versus Ned Stark and how he would act, and really who's really right in that kind of situation.
Well, I'd like to tackle that. I think, they're polar opposites, and I don't believe either one is right, in my opinion. I think Ned took the extreme amount of justice that he could upon Jorah. I do believe what Jorah did was horrible, but you're literally stealing someone's property in a time that, you kind of have to fend for yourself. Not like you can call 911. The Ravens would be there in about 2 seconds, but the Westerosi police take a while to get there. I don't know. We see the cockiness of Viserys and just the willingness for law. I don't want to say lawlessness, but to do things his way. Kind of, we see him being the shit that he is. Even more that he's already kind of delusional, that he's thinking that far ahead of time that he's going to go ahead and pardon Jorah because he's already in his mind conquered Westeros, and that's pretty much his downfall, and he's just insane.
Yep, and like you said, Johnny, we see him for more like him, because he didn't have to technically start, about whole, bringing up how that this is better, this kind of lifestyle is better than, what did he say, a noose or blade or sword to his neck, whatever he said. Like he just needed to bring that up, and the idea that he is kind of making Jorah want to stay on his side, because he mentions that this would not be a bad thing at all, and if he were king. So it's kind of making Jorah want to be his friend too.
But it didn't seem like Jorah even liked that by the look on Jorah's face. And go ahead and mention what you were talking about with the Night's Watch, Milt. I don't want to take credit for that. Even Ben, you're muted.
Yeah. Oh, nothing. I mean, I was just saying that at the time of at the current timeline, Jorah Mormont was already basically the Lord Commander of Night's Watch, and he basically became Lord Commander so that Jorah could be heir to Bear Island. So to have him join the Night's, if he was given the choice of joining the Night Watch, that is Jorah, would he have actually went? And would it be actually be weird to have a father and son combination in the Night's Watch at the same time?
It's possible that he was given the option, but then he didn't want, or Ned. I don't know if Ned Stark gave him the option. He was probably just like, "You're a traitor to the crown, and you're a traitor to Westeros." So it's like, leave. And little did he know that he was going to be helping the 2 Targaryen children that were exiled because of King Robert. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. It's like you kick him out, but then he's also going to help these 2 people come back in. So it's a devil's advocate, I guess.
Yeah, that always pondered. I always wondered about that. I was wondering, like, what. I think Jorah would be. He didn't even want to wait for Ned, right? As he heard that Ned is coming his way, he just basically left. He went into exile, but maybe
He fled, and that's
fled
why
with his wife.
Jorah had to go to the wall, correct? Basically.
No.
Right.
I think, didn't he go there? Well, he gave up the titles and he took the black before.
I thought it was from the shame of Jorah fleeing to go to
I
exile.
remember it differently from the book where his father gave the lands away legally, I think. And at that point, he couldn't come back because he was already at the wall, but I may be mistaken. Anybody? Chat, if you remember any of that. But anyway, all good.
Someone said online that he went there to retire. But that could be completely off.
Say it, Milt. You're still muted.
Oh, I'm not going to say anything.
What am I saying? Like, why did he go? You can't tell. Why did he go? Why did Jorah go? I thought it was because of Jorah.
Yeah. I think Jorah went because he realized it was time for him to basically walk away. Right, he was getting up there in age, and Bear Island he probably felt that Bear Island needed a younger, more vigorous lord to take over, and Jorah Mormont's his oldest son, or his only son, in fact. So he just wanted to just quietly walk away. I mean, I don't think Jorah Mormont went there for any other reason than to basically, go off peacefully into the sunset.
Yeah, that's what people were saying on forums. Is that he voluntarily left to give Jorah the seat of Bear Island, but then he was just there, happened to be there around the time that Jorah was caught with the slave trading and all of that. So yeah, our speculations are on the right path, I guess.
Yeah, it's almost even something they do, like the old Northerners when winter comes and they don't have any food, and the older ones will just go off into the wild by themselves to die. Basically, I guess that's what we're equating it to. Except he has some glory with this, He at least dies with a sword in hand, kind of.
Okay.
So here's an interesting question. And I'm pretty sure about this, but there really hasn't been any kind of like father-son combinations, in the Night's Watch at the same time. Can you guys think of? I mean, I think there hasn't been any, but I could be wrong. But wouldn't that be weird to have Jorah as a Lord Commander and his son being in the Night's Watch at the same time? Wouldn't there be cries of nepotism going around and favoritisms going around?
Yeah.
Unless the father would be ticked off at his son even having to join, Night's Watch because, passing on the name, and if God forbid it was actually the oldest son who had to be it, well, that would be shame. And what if there were no other sons and just the son at the wall? Like, ouch.
That could be why he didn't have an option to go to the wall, maybe, or there might not have been an option. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I guess in the Night's Watch, he doesn't necessarily have to be in the same castle, right? So Jorah could have been sent to East Watch or the Shadow Tower, perhaps.
Okay. possible. So the next scene is Tyrion wakes up in the kennels at Winterfell and has a conversation with Joffrey and the hounds there. And Tyrion slaps Joffrey for not being like sympathetic at all, or like around the fact of Bran's fall, before heading to breakfast with his siblings Tommen and Marcella. And I guess we can rope this into that Tyrion gives the Lannisters an update on Bran's condition, tells them that he plans to go to the Wall and what he's going to be doing at the Wall, and then he throws the quotes of "Life is full of possibilities," as well as "My dear brother, you wound me, you know how much I love my family." So what do you feel about Tyrion's first couple scenes in this episode?
Well, I tried to count the dogs in the kennel. I think I saw 3, but there's probably more. House Clegane. No, I just love the part where he slapped Joffrey, and we have the widow's wail type foreshadowing in a sense, I guess. Yeah, it was a good scene. I really enjoyed the scene. I'm gonna let someone else take over, but yeah, I just really like the scene. I don't have much to say about it.
When I saw what's his name, Tyrion, do what he did, the disrespect, or I guess we can disrespect anybody. They don't have to be your elder. Yeah, I knew that's gonna be. I was expecting something bad to happen later on, which obviously, it will, and it did. I was just wondering how it's gonna play out. Even when I was watching it for the first time, not watching it second time or third or fourth, whatever number it was. Then later on, in the actual hall where they were eating, I like the moment when Jaime said, "Give me a good clean death any day." I wonder if he's gonna get good clean death, if he'll die, or if he's gonna get horrible, terrible death and just kind of messed up kind of death, just because he said that he would like to have a good clean death. So we'll see how they play that, if he'll get his wish or if his death will be completely messed up and just awful, and hopefully they will not kill him off screen. And then when Tyrion says that about being wounded, like you said, Kenzie, that he does love his family, so that may come into play where he may do something crazy for his family, for his blood, whoever he finds out is his blood. There are theories there that he is not a Lannister. I don't know. I mean, I'm fine with any theory. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If there are some clues and evidence for that, I'm fine with it. So we'll see which family he chooses. If there's any other family we need to consider at that point in the future. I think that's all. And then this is when he talks about going to the Wall. So this is going to be exciting, knowing that him like, for me, him as a person who may potentially write a book, and I know we're all thinking about, a lot of us are thinking about Bran maybe potentially writing the book, but like I said, I keep pushing it. Tyrion is the one who has been everywhere. Bran, not Bran. What did I say? I said, did I say Bran? I meant what's his name? Oh gosh, Sam. I meant Sam. Sam has not been in many places, but Tyrion has been everywhere. So going to the Wall, that first step outside King's Landing, because I don't know if he's been traveling much before that. This is going to be his first trip that far north. So that's my stuff about the scene.
Yeah, it was a really nice scene watching Tyrion wake up with all the border collies and Australian shepherds around him. So that was pretty cool. And I think you also got a first glimpse at kind of like Tyrion's decency as as a human being, at least in the show. Because I don't think he's quite as decent in the books as he is in the show. About him telling Joffrey that he has to go basically to Lord and Lady Stark and offer him his condolences and the services. And basically Tyrion slapping Joffrey not once but 3 times. Basically. I thought that was great, and it was so well deserved. I guess I have a couple of questions regarding the slapping, though. I mean, considering the Hound, who is supposedly Joffrey's sworn sword, he didn't interfere at all with the slaps. That to me was kind of surprising as a sworn sword that he would, unless unless the Hound is really sworn to House Lannister, in that case, you can't get involved in these kind of family disputes. But as far as I know, that he is Joffrey's sworn sword against everybody, including other Lannisters. But I could be totally wrong about the Hound's role. And also, even though Joffrey said that, even though Tyrion told Joffrey to get down on his knees and in front of Lord and Lady Stark and offer him his services, whatever he can do about it, did he really do that? Or is Joffrey just such a little shit that he probably didn't do that anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead, Johnny.
Well, I don't think he did it, honestly. And that's interesting about the Hound. I know they're in service of House Lannister, but you do make a good point. I don't know. I mean, he has to be Joffrey's guard dog, for lack of a better term. Why else would he be just standing there with him? And he's always with Joffrey. I mean, he's at Joffrey's side at all times. So I would have to agree with that. As far as what you said about the clean death, I think that's foreshadowing for Jaime losing his hand later. I think that's what that's for. Him being crippled and not being able to fight the way he used to is almost worse than him being dead in his eyes. But yeah, y'all go ahead. My 2 cents.
So actually, for him, the later on the scene when he gives a handshake to, or he has a handshake with Jon, that is the part where I thought there are two things. I mean, that's going to come later, but like that's more like losing a hand, becoming a hand, and losing a hand because of protecting the weaker people like Brienne. Like Jon wants to protect humankind, and so that handshake kind of symbolizing stuff like that. Plus, he's going to lose that hand as he's shaking this hand with the person he's mocking at that moment. But yeah. Go ahead, guys.
Oh, for for this like couple scenes, it's very, I'm not gonna say the word. Very intriguing that it's Tyrion that is able to slap Joffrey 3 times and him not like go complain to either Cersei or Jaime or even Robert for that matter on that regard. I did look up who Clegane is sworn to. He was sworn to House Baratheon, and he was part of Joffrey's Kingsguard. So it's like one of those kind of deals. And also the quote of, "My dear brother, you wooed me, you know anything that I do for my family." I feel like that quote will come up again in season 8, if we are to believe that Tyrion is also playing a slightly political game with Daenerys. And to have Tyrion go on an adventure with Jon will be very cool to see how these two characters will have a little bit of a development, even though we know they will eventually be separated. And I did look it up, but I also thought to write it down that it is Jaime's right hand that he shakes with Jon, and that I believe is the hand that is is taken off. So that is very I have to say it, interesting fact.
And this is a reference. Take a shot. For people who don't know why Kenzie kept trying to choose a different word than interesting, it is you have to watch some of our. What did you call that stream, Johnny?
The interesting live stream. Oh, inebriated thoughts. That one, or
yes, that one.
Oh,
was it a different one? Was it a different one where we were supposed to take a virtual drink? All of them?
Oh, it started, I think, in Westworld, the Westworld stream, where we're like, that's where we solidified.
It's very interesting, right? It's very interesting. That's the word we keep saying, right? So every time we said that, since we were recovering after that interesting shots, everybody stream, we decided to do a virtual shot. So if you like to check that out, we're gonna do probably one in a couple weeks to let our livers recover. But go ahead, Kenzie. You are muted, and I'm muted. Telling you I'm muted, or you're muted. Go ahead.
But it was also very odd that Tyrion was the one to find out about Bran's condition and was to tell the Lannisters about it, and then Cersei's like, wait, what are you talking about? And then when Tyrion is explaining it, she's like, it's not fair to have a child linger like that. It's not fair for him to have such pain like that. So it should have been a clue to Tyrion, like, why are you asking all of these questions, or why are you being so like, oh, like maybe he should die and all of this stuff. But he doesn't take that into account either, because he doesn't suspect anything yet, or of something else. But I'll stop before we go to the next scene. Any final thoughts on Tyrion in this part?
Nope. He's a gargoyle. That's all I'll say.
A gargoyle. Okay. So the next scene that we have is Cersei and Catelyn have a conversation about Cersei's death of her first child with Robert. She talks about how she fought to stay with her and the dead child, but Robert held her as she screamed and cried, and that she never saw him again after that day. And this is the first time we see Cersei cry. And do we believe that this child actually existed? Because why wouldn't people of the realm know of a first child between Robert and Cersei? Like, wouldn't there have been a royal decree that there had been a child born of Robert's line, etc., etc.?
Yeah, Mackenzie. I've always questioned whether or not Cersei was actually bullshitting, Catelyn, for whatever reason, for her own twisted purposes in this line, because I think you're right. I mean, nobody knows about it, and the first son of a royal couple is pretty celebrated, so, and nobody heard about it, then something is kind of off here, it's weird, because this kind of plays into the theory about whether or not, Gendry is actually the first royal prince, right? Basically, the first prince, in the sense that this baby did not actually die, but Cersei was just so pissed off about having a child with Robert Baratheon, who she probably already hated at that time, and she basically just left the baby at somebody's doorstep. And a lot of the theorists out there are saying that could be Gendry. So.
Well, actually, with that, there's this great video by Tony Teflon. I just saw, he just posted it. I have to say that I completely love. I mean, yeah, all the videos are awesome, but this one, speaking on the topic that we're speaking, he made a great point by saying, like, later on, it's being confirmed by Robert. They're talking about it, so it's not like Cersei made it up. Cersei said it in front of Cat, but later on, Cersei and her king, her husband, they're talking about it, and he's not denying it. He's just like, nodding.
He was there. Like, I don't know if they had a trap door and shot the baby down the garbage disposal or down the trash chute. Like, what I'm saying is, Robert was there. They would have had to do so much to get that baby out of there, because he saw the body. He punched the wall, punched his knuckles bloody on the wall.
But while he was being born, he wasn't there. So.
Well, see, it wasn't like a labor thing, was it? I thought it was. She basically miscarried late, right?
No,
he was sick. Like, the child had a fever, is what she said.
No,
like, and died.
He left before she went into labor, or sometime before. I think she went into labor after he left hunting, and then after the baby was born, he was still away. But then the interesting part, and this is actually what Tony said, and that made me think about her not wanting that baby around, because that was not even hers. But she's not able to hurt little children. It's still a debate who ordered the murder of the other infants. I still am not convinced who it was, but killing her own blood, I just don't see that happening. Or her own child, I don't see it happening. It would be easier to just give it away, to just put it somewhere else, to just get it out of sight, not to kill it, but just kind of get rid of it.
Well, if it is, it's a definite show only thing because there's nothing about it in the book.
Oh yeah, it's not.
And there's no like. It's funny that no one in the realm knows about it except 5 people, and she was pregnant for 9 months. Like that's the odd thing about it. But hey, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a TV show.
Yeah.
It's a TV show.
It probably is. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. And and in the show, I mean, we're only getting it from Cersei's perspective. So all that stuff that we think Robert did is coming from Cersei's mouth, right? It's part of the same story. So, yeah. I mean, it just seems so weird that, the crown prince, the first crown prince is, is not known. And then we're stuck with Joffrey, the blonde-haired, green-eyed boy wonder.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious, or that not obvious, but to me, it was kind of the reason behind it might have been they did not want to, until there is an actual, like they don't give names right away. It's not celebrated on their day of their birth. They're getting their names on their name day when they're older, maybe. So who knows? Maybe. First of all, Martin could have just made a big oopsie and like, oops, I did not clear that out. I mean, he's not. I don't know back then. I don't know if he had so many people correcting him. Not right now, it would have been caught. But at that point, I don't know how many people were trying to find his plot holes or errors in logic. But so that could be one thing that he just forgot, or he couldn't go back and like, oops, let me make this new version of this book with a correction. People will just freak out. Or they were hiding that. I mean, you're king and queen, you can do whatever you want. Maybe she didn't want it known. Who knows? I'm just wondering. Just like you were.
It's like Tyrion didn't even know about it. This like there was some master conspiracy to cover up her pregnancy, but everybody knows about this baby now. It's like I don't know. It's just weird. Maybe they're doing something with it. I don't know.
But we're also talking about a woman who, in later episodes, talks about her couplings with Robert. So I digress. But then also in this scene, she says she prays to the mother to have Bran returned back to Catelyn before leaving. Which shows, shows another side of the religion, because they only believe in the first episode really talked about the old gods for a few minutes. And then afterwards, we have Jon having Needle being made for the first time, but is interrupted by Jaime, where they have a conversation about life and how people are sacks of meat and blood and that they're just bones to keep them all standing. They talk about how Jon is signing up to basically save everyone from the White Walkers and Grumpkins and Snarks, and how he's going to be guarding the kingdoms. And then afterwards, we can talk about Jon giving Arya Needle. But this is the first and only time Jon and Jaime have a conversation. And we can talk about that for a little bit if you want.
Go ahead, anyone. I'm just
okay. I saw you unmuting, so I went like quiet. Yeah, I think I mentioned that scene where I already talked about a little bit, where they get that handshake, and it is the right hand, and that's the hand that he gets chopped off, or after he protects the innocent. Like Jon is going to be protecting the innocent. Well, kind of depending on how you look at it. His ideas are still not that perfect, or his imagination, or how it's going to be. The whole purpose of the wall and all that lovely glorified stuff. So he's mocking Jon, and who knows, maybe one day he'll become his hand, or if Jon will be king if he survives. There are theories about that, especially because of that handshake. And another theory I think I heard somewhere is that, well, if there is anything like Night's Watch later on, I don't think there should be, or maybe if they go ahead with another Night's King, maybe there should be one like that. It's gonna repeat. So who knows? Maybe he'll be in that. Changing the cloaks from his really cream one, or kind of white cream one, which we see in that scene, to a dark one. Yeah, those are my thoughts about that. Milt, or
Yeah. I mean, the whole scene was a great troll job by Jaime Lannister to Jon. Essentially, I mean, he basically kept making fun of Night's Watch. First, sarcastically calling them legendary fighters of the Night's Watch, when they're just basically made up of criminals, and basically talking about his oath and basically, it doesn't matter, it's only for life if you take it, So it's a great troll job. It gives you insight on Jaime's, pre-cripple, personality, and how just kind of how arrogant he is, and how how great he is, I guess, as an actor, as a personality. Good scene. And the whole thing about Needle comes in afterwards, so we can talk about that later.
Yeah, the whole "it's only for life" definite foreshadow to Jon dying for sure, but in a funny way. And he got the old POTUS handshake pulling him in, ding 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 ding, the old dominating handshake, and it was just Jaime was peacocking. That's all he was doing, and the next scene. Was that Micken working on the sword there? I'm not sure. They didn't ever clarify, but
yeah, it's Micken. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was a well shot scene. It was a pleasure to see Needle being finished off and polished off. And we cut to the village idiot, and then I guess we'll talk about right in between that is Needle, right?
Yep, it's Needle. Jon going to Arya to give her Needle, and they have their final, I guess their first and final scene together, where Jon gives Arya Needle, and then then there's the comedic moment with Nymeria, where she's like, "Nymeria, clubs," and the dog doesn't understand what she's saying, and then Arya tells Jon that she's going to name the sword Needle because Sansa has her sewing needles and she has a needle of her own, and this is where the first mention of sticking with the pointy end happens. And yeah, we have that scene, and then we can talk about that for a minute, and then we can talk about the following scene after that if you want.
Yeah, so a couple things from this scene. I have when Jon says it's not going to cut a man's head off, but it will poke him full of holes. So that, again, foreshadowing, like we said, later on she's going to do that. And I'm thinking, what if Arya is going to, because all we see her is the fighting she does is with the needle. I don't think I've ever seen her killing somebody with anything else than needle. Actually big sword. Cat's paw. Well, yeah, that one, true. With that. But
and the one big sword when they were at the little inn, when she picked it up and killed. I don't know if it was the second part. When she got Needle back. It was when she got Needle back. No, she picked up that big sword and took it with two hands and slowly drove it in him.
Yeah, in season 4 or something like that, maybe.
Yeah. She killed Mirren Trant with just a basic, ordinary dagger too. Season 5.
Okay. I just thought that it was a needle, just kind of but that's okay. Yeah, I was just thinking that she will use something else to do more damage, because needle does the damage, but it's not gory. Basically, you stick it where it bleeds the most, and it's just done, versus just hacking at somebody with something bigger. But yeah, that huge hug that they get. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead if you were.
Yeah, I was just finishing that up with we see that huge hug, she embraced him like a little sister. This is when we see them embracing like that. Like you said, first together scene and their last together scene, and we only see a couple of those farewells. Yeah, go ahead.
So here's a question about that whole scene, and it relates to the sword itself. Basically, so do you guys think it was just a coincidence that Jon gave Arya a sword that's actually made for stabbing, not really for slashing? Sort of which is what the Braavosi sword fighting style is about. It's really about stabbing and basically blocking versus any kind of slashing attacks. Because if you saw the Braavosi pit fighter, he's basically doing the same kind of stuff. He was just basically stabbing. He wasn't actually slashing. So was it basically foreshadowing by Jon, or was it just a total coincidence that he gave her the type of sword that's really meant for Braavosi style sword fighting?
We also called her skinny as well, so I mean, yeah, I think that's definitely foreshadowing for Arya's fighting style for later, and uh, the scene is really touching because you don't realize when you're first watching it, especially if you didn't read the books before watching the show, that this is the last time Arya and Jon are going to see each other. And we know we hope we're going to get a reunion in season 8, but I have this feeling that Arya is going to be done left before Jon gets there. Something may happen, but I'll get into that another time. Go ahead.
The probably it was coincidence on Jon's part about that the sword was meant for in the style of Berbosi water dancing or whatever, but it could have been just Jon had it fit for her frame at the time and probably figured that if she wanted to have more swords that Ned would probably develop that with her after he realized she has one. Any more?
Could have went with the Spartan short sword. I'm just trolling you. Go ahead.
And then, so I guess no more thoughts on this before we move on to, as Milt calls her, the village idiot.
Let's talk about that idiot. Let's do
So we
it.
have the village idiot, aka Catelyn Stark, and Jon have a conversation as Jon goes to see Bran and gives Bran his final goodbye. And she talks about how Jon has to leave because Ned is leaving to go to King's Landing, but then Ned shows up and then Jon leaves. And then we have the Ned and Cat conversation about Ned leaving again after 17 years ago. He left and he came back with a bastard child, and now he's leaving again, and he has no choice to do it, even though it's with Robert once again. And she says how she cannot do it again. She cannot be without Ned in that way, but she has to. Thoughts?
Well, I'll just say the hate in this woman's eyes is unparalleled. She hates someone that much in real life, and she channeled it. I could feel the hate through the screen, and we really get a sense of the beast that Catelyn Tully is in the scene. The sheer hatred. Oh gosh, I don't know. It was a powerful scene. It was hard to watch, especially it's so uncomfortable for Jon. And imagine that being your last moments with your brother. Is you're basically your stepmom is giving you the hate stare, like she wants you to die right then and there while you're trying to say goodbye to your brother. Scene was just very powerful to me, and yeah, go ahead. Anybody?
Yeah, Johnny, I totally agree. And also, it just really shows you at least kind of like the shallowness of Catelyn Tully's, Catelyn Stark's character. If it's in fact represented truly, the fact that she has her 9-year-old son in a coma, but yet she can still look at Jon, who's there just to say goodbye to her 9-year-old son, with such an evil stare. Still has time for that. Still thinking about that. It just really shows you how much of a kind of a despicable person she is to even think that way.
Yeah. And we can see like she is broken. She's tired. She probably hasn't slept in forever and emotionally completely drained. And we see her how she truly is, because at that moment people kind of show their colors. And all this time we did see the not crazy look, but this look like when she looked down at him from the balcony. She didn't like him. Obviously, we thought, what's wrong with her? There's something going on. But she was good. She was in a good place, and she had enough strength and power to hold that hatred in and not to show it. To just show it as she's treating him, like a base-born child that he is. And at that moment, where after what happens to Bran, she has no more energy, or she doesn't care anymore to hide all that stuff. And this is we see her true face, and it's ugly, and it's ugly, ugly, ugly. Horrible. This is my first rewatch of it, looking that deep into it. I just looked at it before, just in general, like to listen to the story, but now kind of looking at it and analyzing it. That woman, Johnny, seriously, I don't remember seeing that much hate in anybody. Maybe when I watch it later on, I'm gonna see somebody hating so much. Like if looks and thoughts could kill, that woman, Jon will drop dead that moment. And we see Ned coming in there, and they have their own, talk. Again, kind of showing us telling us in a way, but also at a good point. They're not doing it right away. They waited an episode to reveal what's going on. So they did not shove it in our faces right away, like, oh, this is this. They waited an episode to say the whole story about about 17 years and the whole story behind how he got there and why she hates him so much.
Yeah, I mean, even Cersei didn't give Daenerys in season 7 that kind of hateful look. Like the look that Catelyn gave Jon was very, very personal.
And Ned said nothing. He said nothing. He just
yeah. No, and to do that, while she has her 9-year-old son in a coma, it's just really a weird way for somebody to react. That's all.
For a woman to blame the child instead of her husband for him being born is just, I don't get it, and I will probably never get it, even though I'm too young to understand. I'll still never get it. But also for Ned, because we don't really get the backstory of how like Catelyn is so not talking towards Jon / to Jon because of what Ned had said when they had shown up. And we also don't get how, in the books too, how Catelyn had arrived with Robb and Jon was already there with Ned and the wet nurse. So we kind of understand why she's like that, but she doesn't have to be 100% like dagger eyes the moment she sees Jon, which I guess benefits him in the end in terms of being strong-willed and all of this other things.
Yeah, but like she didn't even know Ned. She was gonna marry Brandon, and then they got married, and he was gone. It wasn't like they were even fell in love. It's just this weird. I don't know. She's just a hateful person. She's one of those people who can't let anybody steal her shine, or like, I don't know what it is. There's just something. I don't know. I can't explain her. I will never understand Catelyn Tully, and I will not call her Catelyn Stark because she is Catelyn Tully. But I don't want to shame the Tullys either. I do like Brendan, like to, but
she's a different kind of fish. See, the thing about Catelyn, there are people who still love her for how good of a mother she is to her other children, and I guess she is good mother to other children, but she's not a good that good of a person. I mean, nobody's perfect, but when you start hating on children, that's kind of odd. And like, they are innocent until they do something to actually hurt you. And blaming, I don't get it. Blaming children for the sins, although they're not sins, depending on how you look at it. Morality or lack of Anyway, a child is innocent, so hating on it, I'm saying it, like boy or girl, it's just wrong. But I see that happening sometimes with people who are displacing their anger, like when they're angry at the spouse or something, they may react on, like, she cannot do much. What can she do? She's going to argue with him for whatever number of years. That's going to take a lot of energy out, and they have to function. So the one who is vulnerable is the child, so she'll take it on somebody who is not able to kind of defend themselves, and that's Jon at that point. Ned could defend, but Jon just knows as it is right now, and he will not defend himself.
So do you guys think that a lot of this hate would have been dissipated if Ned would have just told her and trusted Catelyn that, hey, Jon is really Lyanna's son in the show? Because that's what I convinced in the books, but just say in the show. I mean, we think that would have been in Catelyn's nature to be a lot more forgiving and actually treat Jon a lot better.
He would be forgiving, but that would be a very dumb move if he would have told her. So in a way, it's such a huge secret, and he didn't know her. He only met her for that one night, or for whatever so he didn't know. Coming back at some point, maybe if he got to know her, but maybe he got to know her, and that's why he's not telling her.
Yeah, like maybe after like your third kid or second kid together, you probably know your wife by then to actually trust her with that kind of secret.
But maybe he knows her.
She didn't even keep the Liza Tully secret very well. When she got that letter, and then we'll talk about later her going all whatever. I ain't even gonna get into her finding that hair. We'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, I don't know. Go ahead with your thoughts. I'm getting frustrated thinking about this.
No, like I said, I maybe the reason why he didn't tell her is because he got to know her and he felt that he may love her, he will trust her with other stuff, but maybe this is a little bit too much because she may be too good to him. She may be actually nice to him, and maybe he needed. And I think some people actually said at some point in the past where she might have been too nice to him, and that would raise a lot of like, why is this woman nice about this? She should be upset. So that kind of kept that keeping that secret from truth from her helped in the whole lie, meaning she was selling it because she didn't know any better.
There's the no,
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna make one more point, one more parallel. I mean, it's interesting that I think this is another example of George R. R. Martin's kind of like taking inspiration from another story. Jon Snow to me is almost just like Luke Skywalker in the sense that they were both children of very famous parents, and they grew up in really under bad circumstances. Luke Skywalker, Harry Potter, and now Jon Snow. I'll even throw Harry Potter in there as well. It's the same kind of cliche that runs through a lot of these stories about a child of famous parents growing up under harsh circumstances, so it teaches them humility.
King Arthur, the classic.
Yeah.
And yes, we'll get.
Okay. And
we're going.
Next one after this,
Kenzie's ready.
right? Okay, go ahead, Kenzie. Unless she's muted. I think she's still muted. So after that, we have Robb and Jon. Oh, go ahead, Kenzie. I think you're back.
Yeah, my internet just kept cutting out. I'll just do like this for a minute.
Okay.
Oh, but my one.
Go ahead.
One final thing that I had on the whole, if Catelyn knew about Jon's parentage, is that she could easily throw that under the bus and have him be like taken and be like, she could have let people know that, oh, I have the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark under my roof, because like people would figure it out mathematically. As if this was Lyanna's child, they'd be like, who was Lyanna with for 9 months ago? And then they'd figure out that it was Rhaegar. So it would just be one of those situations, because like people have mentioned in the chat, like Catelyn was always fearful of how Robb was always beneath Jon in certain aspects, but Robb was also better at him at other things. So it was just, if she had knew, it would have been disastrous for not only her children, but also for Jon as well, just in terms of safety, because Robert would have probably killed Ned and Catelyn and all the children that were there at the time, which probably would have just been Robb. But because they were holding a Targaryen child in their home, would have been like the end of Ned and Robert's friendship. So yeah.
Yeah, I do want to say we got a classic chicken or the egg scenario. Some people are blaming Jaime for the start of the War of the Five Kings. Some people are blaming Cat for capturing Tyrion, but it's kind of a chain effect, I guess. I don't know why I'm bringing this up. I just want to say that the scene with Jon. Oh, you want to say something about that? Go ahead, Milt.
It's Cat.
I know. I mean, it is easy to blame her. I'll blame #Cat with a little bit of Jaime's help with the push from the golden hand. Okay, but this scene wasn't in the books, but it was a very touching scene. Last time we see Ned and Jon together, and well, I don't know, it's just very emotional. I think it was one of the best scenes of the entire episode, in my opinion. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. It's real foreshadowing that he says, "You're of my blood," and he doesn't say "you're my son." So that's kind of when we get a definite hint that there's something for sure different about Jon.
Also, they bring up the word promise, and like he's like, "Will we see each other again?" And it's like, "Oh, promise me," or all of this stuff. So there's that word again, that special word that Ned only uses with Lyanna. Is promise, really. and that's the word that he's attached to is Lyanna, and he's saying it to Lyanna's son. So another tidbit of, I guess, information there. But yeah, you also talked about the other scene, but it's fine. Next, I guess after this, if there's no more conversation about the Ned scene, we can move on, I guess.
It's just the first unfulfilled promise in a long string of unfulfilled promises during the whole series.
So true, man.
What are we? This scene that we're just talking about. Where are we stopping at which point? Kenzie?
Oh, I thought you guys had talked about the Robb scene already, Robb and Jon scene, and then you went to.
No, we brought it up as you were coming back. So we have Robb and Jon, and they were talking. We skipped that one, and they were talking about. He was asking about the wall, and this is visiting the wall, I guess, and then asking about how Cat was, and Jon lied, saying she was kind, which was a huge lie, obviously. And then Jon talked about that black was his color anyway, and then that Starks are so hard to kill.
Yeah, I forgot. We had to talk about sexy jawline guy. I can't really believe we forgot about him. Yeah, and the black is very interesting as far as Targaryen colors and all that go.
So who's the sexy jawline again? I know from the
jawline guy. That's Robb Stark.
Robb Stark. Oh, okay, I guess.
Really, sexy jawline. Never noticed that, Johnny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
that's what somebody calls him on.
Steve, yeah, one of them, Steve. Yeah.
And he calls Jon Bastard King. So
Bastard King. Yeah. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. And then, so any thoughts on this one too?
Well, I would say that the most, the part that everybody should, at this point, be like, what about is like when Jon says, "You Starks are hard to kill," because it's foreshadowing for later on in this series, obviously, when what happens down the line. So, like. Even though, and I guess he says that because he technically isn't a Stark, but he is a partial Stark, so it's one of those tidbits that you're just like, is this going to come back to pass later on? And it does.
Yeah, like Kat refers to herself kind of Stark and Tully, and Jon is Stark and Targaryen, so he's still Stark, and according to what we know thus far, he is legitimate, so. Yeah, go ahead, guys.
So we going to the next scene, or am I gonna just incompetently talk about something here? No,
we can go to the next scene, which is Ned and Jon at the crossroads, right, where they kind of say goodbye to each other.
I thought we jumped to that scene.
Oh, you already did complete that. Okay.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything about that scene? I talked about how beautiful it was.
How cute.
Yeah, the whole about 1,000 years that Starks have manned the wall for 1,000 years. So that did we mention it before, where somebody had a question if Starks actually had been?
I think that was in the last episode, like the last stream.
Somewhere, yeah, where there was a question if they were there all this time, like if there was always a Stark at the Winterfell and always a Stark at the wall at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it would make sense if a Stark did build the wall, if that history is correct, or a line of Starks built the wall, which I think is more accurate. But go ahead, Milt. I see you want to talk.
Yeah. I mean, I think this. I mean, the whole statement in the books, or the whole thing in the books, was that there must always be a Stark at Winterfell. But if there are spare Starks hanging around, like second sons and third sons or whatever, I'm sure probably back then they probably considered their duty to basically go to the wall and man it. So yeah.
I think that's it. Yep. So the next scene we see is Ned and Robert having a conversation on their way to King's Landing about their past over a meal. They talk about tavern wenches, and then the mention of Bessie comes up, and then Wyla, who Ned says is Jon's mother, and how Ned will never tell Robert about what Jon's mother looks like. And They talk about Robert's coronation and how Ned can never do anything to Robert again because he's king, and how a rider in the night brought notice of Daenerys' marriage to Drogo, and how they have to have a conversation about how they must kill Daenerys, and how a bald man will wield a sword and kill her before she has any children. And they also talk about how Aerys, Rhaegar, and how Lyanna and how that affected everything, and as well as if Viserys was to cross with the Dothraki horde and the Dothraki Sea, and that Robert says a war is coming. So that's a big chunk of a scene for those two characters.
Yeah, I believe in the books they ride as far away as they can because Robert's getting away from everyone, so no one can hear them. Other than that, it's you notice how prickly Ned is when it comes to Targaryens, and you're wondering why if you haven't read any of the books, especially. And he's very defensive over Lila. It's puzzling to Robert, but then he's so consumed with killing every Targaryen that he's not paying attention to anything. It's like he's got Targ paranoia. He just replaced the Mad King with a different type of madness. It's like he has nothing else to think about. He's just drinking and and whoring and and thinking about Targaryens. Go ahead, Milt. I see you.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty cool scene, I was kind of wondering during that whole conversation where they're sitting at the table, what the writers were thinking, because Robert's, questioning Ned about the women in his life. He says, Becca, Wyla, and then all of a sudden a name like Meryl comes up from the 1950s, So yeah, all these medieval names, and now all of a sudden you have Meryl come up. It's like, and I'm going, wow, did it just get transported to I Love Lucy or something? So it's kind of I thought that was kind of an interesting bit of writing, I guess.
Take a shot. Milt said interesting. Go ahead, Lamar.
I need to get like a shot glass, and I do have one from Canada. That would be a fitting thing to have on your show. My favorite one is with leaves from Canada. I have to bring it here for one of our. We should present our little shots. We should present it on our next stream, and just and make sure it's not water inside. So the thing that I wanted to add to this one is when they're talking about like, what am I supposed to do? Give her a gift or wedding gift or present? And then he says something like maybe a knife and a bold man to wield it. So I'm thinking, yeah, bold man, like bold as in he can do the actions, or bold man like Varys.
The same thing.
Or Varys. Who knows? That's the only bold man there by choice, probably, if he's somebody else and doesn't want to show his hair color. Hint, hint, maybe somebody likes crazy tinfoil. Yeah, so we'll see how that plays in. That's just the only thought extra on top of what you said that I wanted to add to that scene.
I think that's everybody's covered. And then so we have mine.
Yeah, you're just being a narrator. I want to hear your thoughts one time.
Oh,
tell me what you think.
For this, you kind of again see Robert and Ned's relationship and how they talk about all these different things, and they talked about all these women. So like Robert's like this woman and this one and this one and this one, and Ned's like, no, that was yours. But oh wait, that was yours too. And then there was like, oh, and that one. And then he's like, what was the name of your bastard's mother? And he says Wyla. Like that's like his automatic response for that. And we have to obviously believe that is Ned's, I guess, mistress, or Ned and Jon's mother, but I guess later we'll find out about her a little bit. Not so much in the show, but in the books we kind of learn about Wyla. And for Ned to have so much interest in the protection of Daenerys, starting off really with this deed, it gets people intrigued into how and why Ned is so invested in the the Dothraki, Daenerys and Viserys' protection, and how they also bring up Aerys and Rhaegar and how the Mad King was, and it's like, this was the Mad King, and the Rhaegar did this to your sister, and he brings up Lyanna and Rhaegar again. So it's just a whole slew of things. Like, we get more backstory on Ned and Robert, and we get Ned's first, I guess, feelings towards is there at the first slaughter of Targaryen children. So this is when another Targaryen child slaughtered when he was on the opposing side.
Yeah, Robert doesn't seem too empathetic, even when it comes to children. So that's something worth noting. Go ahead.
No, that was like my last sort of thing before we can move on to the next scene, which happens to be Daenerys, and it's Daenerys and Drogo are together, and then
that scene.
Yeah, and then we see Daenerys staring at her eggs for the first time, like very, very intrigued onto what she could potentially do with them. She's like thinking about what these petrified eggs are and if she can do anything to make them non-petrified. In my mind reading during that really awkward scene to mind.
Yeah, I just want to say that was awkward for her to have the bright idea and smirk about the dragon eggs in the middle of that. I guess D&D needed some gratuitous sex to boost up the ratings on this one. I don't know. It was an odd scene. I don't know what else to really say about it. Maybe a lady can help me out here. I don't know what to say.
There are no ladies here. I'm just kidding. Bad choice of words. Yeah, so that one, when you said like looking into somewhere else, I mean, obviously she wasn't having fun, right? He was having fun, she wasn't having fun. And I think that was, in a way, again, different from the books, completely different from the books, I would say. But just sticking with the show right now, that was needed for later on when she decides to do something about it, to not be this victim and kind of do stuff. I mean, what is her other choice? Either kill herself, do what they're doing, or actually turn it into something fun. So we needed, in a way, or I guess they thought we needed to see that before she completely turns the other way, and actually literally turns the other way. Oh my god. And takes it differently, as far as, you know, like, I'm not a victim, I am the one who's in charge, in a way. And then the eggs, I think she's getting strength from them. She kind of escapes by looking at that and drawing strength from it. So this is kind of from the book too. She, like, even after later on when she loses the baby, she gets strength from that. Those eggs, they basically are kind of magic to her, at least. Those are my thoughts about it.
I think they established the dominance in the first episode, but go ahead, Milt.
I mean, it's obviously that she wasn't really interested, or was enjoying it too much. I'm sure Khal Drogo wasn't enjoying it, but you know, to me, the whole scene just seemed gratuitous and didn't really make sense, because, you know, through the first episode and through you know the first half an hour of this episode, you know, Dany didn't like the guy. You know, he didn't like him. You know, she was afraid of him. And all of a sudden, to turn around the next scene where all of a sudden she wants to be in charge and actually have some affection during sex, it just seemed weird for a woman to change her mind that quickly about a person. You know, even though they're husband and wife, but still, it just seemed really weird. So I thought this scene was kind of, it shouldn't have been in it. It was a bit gratuitous.
Bubba Husky says it's probably D&D's ham-handed way of saying that she started ovulating. Oh, Bubba.
Only Bubba. Bum, 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 bum.
So the next scene after this is Jon and Tyrion have made camp with the Night's Watch recruits on the way to the Wall. Tyrion and Jon talk about the Watch and how people end up there. And then Tyrion talks about how he reads and how his mind needs a sword. Mind needs books like a sword needs a whetstone. And they also talk about Jaime and killing the Mad King. And then they end up talking about how Robert is king and how after Robert, Joffrey will be king and how the line is passed down. And then they end the scene by sharing wine. So we have our second real Jon and Tyrion conversation about the wall and how the wall works, pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first bro moment between Jon and Tyrion, which was really cool. And the cool thing about this scene, I think, is basically it relates to Tyrion because he again reminds everybody that he is a dwarf, and if he was a peasant, right, he would have been thrown out and left in the woods to die, and that's why he's actually reading a lot, is because he understands that knowledge is power, and knowledge is probably his only way to survive in this world. So that's why he's sharpening his mind.
Right, and to think about it, the Lannisters are the only one that's ever told Jon the truth. Jaime and Tyrion's the only one that's ever told Jon the truth about the wall and everything. Everybody else has lied to him. So that's crazy. You got to give the Lannisters a little bit of credit at least. At least they told Jon the truth. Go ahead. I just wanted to throw that in there. Go ahead, Elamar.
Great point about that. Yeah. So I still am not sure why Ned would not say anything before that. I mean, what else is there to do in the north? Like, it's cold, there's like not much stuff to do, so I guess you kind of sit around around the fire and just tell stories. Wouldn't be there stories that the truth of the wall, what actually happens there, who goes there? Like, what about the maester? Like, what the hell? What's his problem, dude? You're supposed to educate people. Aren't you allowed to educate Jon about what really happens? Well, obviously, if that would have been done, Jon would be like, okay, never mind, I'm not going there anymore. And we wouldn't have the story. So obviously there was a reason for that. But I'm just surprised that they're not educated more. I mean, in his family, all the Stark, at some point there's always been a Stark, right? So there has to be something, some knowledge of it. But I guess not enough to tell Jon what really was happening at the wall.
You know what it seems like? It seems like maybe even at Winterfell, because they're so tightly. I mean, they're so closely tied to the wall that maybe the Night's Watch is romanticized a bit too much while they're growing up in Winterfell because of the whole Stark Night's Watch connection. The thing about the scene, though, you kind of notice Jon's look when Tyrion tells him, here are going to be your new brothers, basically a bunch of rapists, right? Rast and the other guy, and Rast and the other guy, and you can kind of see how his enthusiasm is a bit tempered there, but then he feels like he's destined to have to go there anyway. He's like, so it doesn't really matter. He can't quit now for whatever reason.
So that may play in. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I was thinking about something else now.
Mm-hmm. No, so like later on, he will find out that there's an echo. No, he won't find out there's an echo. I just hear an echo. My mind is on a loop right now. Yeah. So later on, he realizes that he doesn't have to stay there because he is doing it by choice. Like, nobody is forcing him. And in the beginning, he will feel. I think this is the first moment where when he sees them for all the flaws that they have, that it's not just all the bastard sons of great houses go there to do this great deed. Bad people go there. So this is the first time where he's kind of like may feel like, okay, I'm a little bit better than they are. I'm like choosing it.
Yeah, no, I mean Jon. It's my opinion. I think Jon thinks he has no choice but to go to the wall because Ned's leaving for King's Landing. He has no more protector. Catelyn's there. Catelyn's not going to do shit for him, right? He's going to treat him like hell. So he has no choice but to go to a different place. Winterfell. So he's almost like resigned himself to having to go there. He really can't quit, right?
And just the perception of I have a choice. I still have a choice, but obviously he can't make that choice, because the consequences are just too awful. Go ahead, Johnny.
Well, it wasn't like people didn't try to talk him out of it. Benjen didn't try to talk him out of it. And, they were going to wait till he was older to let him go anyway, but because he was kind of already set on it, being a bastard and brooding all the time like he does. We love him. He was dead set on it, and then you're right, Milt. Like I was going to say the same thing. Kat basically pushed him out. She wasn't going to have him there. She wasn't going to put up with him. She basically told Ned that I will not have him here. So, I mean, there really wasn't a choice. And then Ned, being Ned, thinks the only way to save him is to send him to the damn wall. That's a typical Ned move. Let's not take him with him at court, because that'll offend the bastard to offend people, right? But we have Arya running around in the sewers, and he doesn't really care too much about that. So, there's a little bit of I don't know what Ned's thinking sometimes. He's not the brightest bulb.
Yeah. I mean, couldn't he have basically dropped off Jon, say with at the neck, and basically asked Colin Reed to basically foster him on a bit, would that have made a lot more sense than forcing his sister's son to go to the wall? Because Howard Reed knows the story. Obviously,
he was kids there. Know the story. I think they act like they know the story.
So why not just make him a squire or master of arms at the neck? At Greywater Watch.
Yeah, I'm getting spastic here.
Yeah.
Maybe it's really cold up north, and like the processing power of the brain kind of goes down because it's really cold. You can't think that well. Yeah.
Excuses.
I know. The only one that I see is basically it wouldn't be the story if things happen like we wanted them to happen. If it was logic, yeah.
My last kind of comment on this, which I told Johnny about, it's Jon's automatic anger against the Lannisters. He's like, your brother killed that king, so it's the genetic anger. It's of being a Targaryen, haha, the genetic anger. Because his grandpa was killed by Jaime Lannister, even though his other grandpa killed him.
Exactly, grandpa. Complicated.
I love me auntie. Go ahead, Kinsey, on the next scene.
And then the next scene is Catelyn and Maester Luwin have a quick conversation about the cost of the king and the royal party being at Winterfell. And then Robb dismisses Maester Luwin, where afterwards Robb and Catelyn have a conversation about Bran, Rickon, and her health, about not leaving Bran's room. Robb says that Rickon doesn't understand while everybody's leaving, and how he's clutching to his leg and is always by his side. There's a fire where it's just a distraction tactic, where we see the assassin coming to kill Bran with cat's paw dagger, and Catelyn is able to fight him off, and then Summer kills the assassin. And yeah, that's about that scene.
This is where I got to give Kat some props right here. She fights her heart out, and the assassin is very stupid and doesn't just stab her. I don't know why he doesn't just stab her. But hey, it's a TV show, and we love it. And it's pretty. It is awesome. She fights fierce as a mother. I will give her that. And we do see Summer, well, who doesn't have a name yet, but rip out his throat, which I thought was very cool. And then kind of jumps on the blankets, and how Summer blends in with the blankets, I thought was a very nice touch. You could barely even see the wolf in there. It's very cool. It is really close to the books as far as that scene went. Yeah, I liked it. It was a short, to the point, but very effective scene. And you kind of see right there the deep connection of Summer and Bran, or the wolf and Bran, because the wolf doesn't have a name yet. And then Kat actually begins to like the wolf now. So
yeah, and Catelyn really did a great job too in fighting, not having to make any new appointments to the castle, right? Basically shoved it off to poor Robb to do that. So she fought twice, right? Once against the castle and once against actually doing some real work as Lady of Winterfell. So, hooray for Catelyn for that kind of stuff. Yeah, and this whole assassin thing has been like touched upon in many, many theory videos. It's like, was the assassin just there to kill Bran? And why didn't he run away when he saw that Bran's room wasn't deserted and Cat was there? Why did he have to go and try to kill Cat? I mean, there were going to be other opportunities to off Bran. So, why was this assassin so dedicated?
Yeah, wasn't he sleeping in the stalls for like a month in the books or something? Like a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
it is odd.
Yeah, there would have been plenty of other opportunities to kill Bran. So why now? Why then? And why have and why try to kill him when there's a witness involved present? Because he doesn't need to kill Catelyn to get to Bran. That's my point. There'll be other times to do that.
Plus, why he was like, he didn't even wait long enough for any, like, where was he? They just left because there was a fire, and there must have been more than maybe one person for that, because how can you, like, I don't know how close the fire was, but to start it and to kind of walk like not too quickly to that room and to stand somewhere, behind something in front of the door, and he sees them running, but he didn't count how many people got inside. Like, he couldn't. So, and then he didn't even wait long enough to check who is in that room. I mean, he walks in and he's like right behind her when she turns around. So he could have seen her. Okay, there's this person standing. Whoopsies, different plan. Not like woke up so close to her, like you were not even supposed to be here. Well, you saw her. You didn't, like, either stab her in the back, not wait for her to turn around, and then kill the boy, or leave until she leaves. And why would he assume that she's gonna leave running after the fire to get the fire out? First of all, she's a woman, so technically they wouldn't do that. Probably they would get the water, or plus she has people to get that fire, to take care of the fire. So many things going, or like being illogical. But then cool scene, like you said, Johnny, that throat being completely ripped out and all that blood, like, oh yeah, this is so cool. And watching it on big screen, that was really nice too. With the name Cat's Paw, like, we know this is the name for whoever is hired to do this bad deed. But when I thought about it after, cats, like Catelyn, cats, and paw meaning her palm, where it was so strong, like she was holding that thing and just pulling on it, and blood everywhere. So then she looks at her hand. So that was kind of maybe play on words. So obviously it's not a paw, it's a palm. But yeah. So that was just something I wanted to add to that.
You're not supposed to be here.
Yes.
She had that same look at the end of the Red Wedding too, when she was up bleeding. It's the same look of despair. So,
Shit.
And exactly.
There's a question from Eduardo, and it says, immediately after Catelyn showing her bleeding hands, there's the scene changes to Daenerys being tended but about her hands. Any particular reason behind that?
Yes, Danny's gonna hate Jon in season 8. That's what it means. No, I don't know. Maybe there's some correlation. Go ahead.
It's probably, well, because were her hands burnt or something from
not burnt? Saddle.
Oh, yeah, that. Yeah. So maybe there's some correlation to it. Just I never looked that deep into it. Eduardo always coming in with the deep questions.
I mean, the things we do to survive, right? Kat did that to survive. She was willing to endure that pain over here. And with Danny, Danny's wounds seemed to be kind of healing, or more, because there was no more blood. It was just kind of getting. It didn't seem that bad. It was just
callus.
Yeah, kind of. They're still cleaning it, but as Kat is bleeding and doing everything possible for her son to stay alive, maybe Danny is doing all she can to stay alive. Kind of going back to the books where she was debating even like if like to just end it. I think I don't know if it was said ended, but she was holding on to her life and meaning to holding on to the saddle. Well, not the saddle, whatever she was holding.
Yeah. So, does anybody think that that guy was a ferret? I mean, a Frey, the assassin.
Sorry, that's
But that'd be interesting to bring in the phrase already that early.
Yeah, he was like a McPoyle from Always Sunny.
He looked like a Frey.
McPoyles
His hat was
everywhere.
I mean, it's only because he had the same kind of hat that the Freys wear. That's all. So.
That's the only correlation with that one actor.
Yeah.
It was like a sellsword or whatever. But
I'm sorry, I had to bring that up.
It's all right. So, if there's no more thoughts about the attempted murder of Bran and the saving of Bran by Catelyn, we can move on to the next the next scene.
It is known.
So, the next, John is with his segue. Daenerys is being tended to by her handmaidens, and they talk about where dragons come from and their beliefs about dragons. And then they have a conversation about how Daenerys must please Khal Drogo. That's just a quick scene.
What's up, Milt? Does moons make dragons?
No, the
I know
sun.
you like the grammar.
The sun that makes the dragon.
I thought the two moons collided. One got too close to the sun, exploded, and made a million, or 1,000 dragons. Go ahead, Milt, with the geology of exploding dragon moons.
Probably not. I'm sure it's just a metaphor for meaning something else. But I'll just leave it at that.
I wonder if they brought it up from, although I think Doctor Who episode was after that, where it was actually an egg. Moon was an egg. Well, spoilers for those who, Doctor Who stuff. So it was actually an egg.
Which season was that? Season 44?
No, there are not seasons like that right now. Oh, Johnny, don't hate on Doctor Who with your.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of them.
Depending on how you look at it, yes. But at one point, there was an episode where Moon was an egg or something, and yeah, it was a very nice episode, by the way. Hint, hint. Doctor Who coming up at some point on my channel. Okay, let's keep going.
And then after that scene, it's Jon reaches the wall with Tyrion and Benjen. That was like a one scene. So we see Jon see the wall for the first time, and we get our first sort of real look at what the wall really looks like, because we got kind of a shortened look at the wall in the first episode. So we have that scene, and then after that we have Catelyn doing investigating about how and why Bran fell, finding a single strand of hair, and then we have Theon, Robb, Cat, Sir Roderick, and Maester Luwin meet and discuss the blade and the situation in the Godswood, where Catelyn says that the Lannisters were the attempt on Bran's life and that they want to kill him, and that Catelyn is going to leave Bran to go to King's Landing to have the Lannisters answer for their crimes against Starks.
Can I start my rage yet, or you want to start?
Who wants to rage first?
Go ahead, Milt. You get some rage first. I'm gonna let mine build up. Go ahead.
All right. Well. Okay. So. Okay. Well. This is just a technicality first, but hosting the wall would have been a lot better if we had some sort of sense of scale as to how high the wall was. Like they actually showed like a human being at the foot of the wall, because from that shot you really don't know how high the wall is. It's described in the books to be about 700 feet high, but it'd been nice to have some sort of sense of scale in that shot. So so that's my pet peeve about that scene. In terms of the whole Sherlock Catelyn, episode, how can she just basically go up there and find one string of hair and all of a sudden decide that it has to be the Lannisters that are in trouble? It's just like it's just one string of hair.
Milt, because the Lannisters are the only blonde-haired people ever to live.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah. I mean, the wind can blow it in. So. Oh, I mean, if she found Cersei's underwear or something like that, yeah, I mean, you can kind of make a connection, but no, it's just a string, it's just a strand of hair.
She come out with a DNA kit, and she had
Yeah, or a bloody glove, right? And then you'd be chasing O.J. Simpson around restaurants. But besides that, I mean,
one random white stallion.
Anyway, okay, we're done.
Jaime's Kata. Go.
My like qualm with this scene is that literally maybe 10 minutes earlier when she was with Robb, she's like, I cannot leave Bran. I cannot leave Bran. Rickon can be by himself. I can't leave Bran. I can't leave Bran. And then when she finds out that the Lannisters are involved with the reason why Bran fell / is taking the attempt on his life, she's like, I have to go. I must leave now. Like, no time to waste. Like, I must leave at this very moment. Like, 2 seconds ago, you were complaining that you couldn't leave him, and then all of a sudden you find one single strand of blonde hair after you go up the broken tower to be like, oh, I know who it is. It's the Lannisters. Like, makes no real sense, but that's my thought on that one scene.
And
also poor Rickon. She still doesn't see Rickon through this whole episode, right? She goes from Bran's room straight into the broken tower, and poor Rickon is being neglected. So it just shows her. It just shows everybody, like, what kind of person Kat is.
Yeah, she has a 6-year-old, and she wants to like go on an investigation instead of caring for the 6-year-old that has been left his own devices for like a month and a half.
And it's really weird as a mother. Like, first of all, they kind of got it wrong. Again, depends on the person, but just because one child is sick, you don't just abandon other children. And that room was freaking huge. She could have brought. It's not like Brenna's gonna mind, little Rickon running around practicing that zigzag. Maybe that's why he didn't zig or zag, because the mother wasn't there. That room was, plenty room to just, practice that. Kat could have, she had time to needle the little wreath and all that. Little Rickon could be there.
Wasn't able to talk until he was 6. He was just starting to talk because no one ever paid any attention to him. He speaks more wolf than English.
That's why I'm saying, like, this is kind of not right. I mean, obviously when a child is so sick where they're like, they're aware and things are bothering them, yeah, keep the child where it needs to be. But he's in coma. He could be in coma. They could bring him for dinner. They could have dinner over there. They can do stuff. She doesn't have to be stuck there.
Yeah,
they
yeah,
can carry him.
Yeah, and also, why wasn't why couldn't Rickon just wait with her on Bran in the same room?
Exactly.
Instead, he's like shut out.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like, bring your toys, bring your wolf, play stuff, do things. It's a big room. You can do stuff. Do your homework. I'm just saying. It's as a multitasking person. Heck, I mean, this is what we do. A lot of times, you have to have them all here. You cannot just divide your time. You have to multiply your time, although you cannot multiply your time. But if you're a mother, you are able to multiply time. There you go, physics. Yeah.
Can I say something about Master Lewin and his detective skills? His evidence was the boy was always sure-footed. Like, accidents don't happen. He would have never fell because he's a sure-footed 9-year-old or whatever, however old he is at this point. I can't remember because it's different in the books and the show, and I get them so conflated. But yeah, I mean, it's like the boy was always sure-footed before. Let's send this guy with the most well-known sideburns in the entire galaxy, along with Catelyn, and then let's go find the Lannisters. Yeah. We know they did it, and let's not stir up trouble now.
And people said CSI Catelyn, but it's also Catelyn and Maester Lewin should have their own detective agency. But it's also even worse in the books, because in the books Rickon's 3 years old. So like, you're gonna let the 3-year-old like go around like crying for mom, and then mom and dad aren't like nowhere to be found for him. So it's like a little crazy. But if we have any more, if we can hold.
What bothers me about this whole thing too is that Bran and Rickon are the youngest children of Catelyn and Ned, right? So you would think that they would have rooms next to each other, and yet we never see Rickon at all during this whole scene. You would think seriously. these rooms in very, very close proximity to one another. So it's kind of interesting how this is all playing out with poor Rickon. It's like the abandoned child.
His character was abused this entire show. Like, neglect, chop off Shaggy Dog's head, neglect, no zigzag, he gone. I mean, that's it. That's all we get of Rickon. It's I hate it too because Shaggy Dog was just an awesome looking direwolf to top it off. Sorry.
Yeah, and it's understandable sometimes. I mean, just because we're saying all this negative stuff, we're still loving it. Just all love, not hate, at least from me. But knowing that everything is great and we love it, still we're not blind to what was going on. So this is our therapy, kind of getting the steam out. And then I just wanted to add to this. I don't know who said it there, but one of the either Maester Lewin or the guy with the funny beard, or somebody else probably. He says, "Is there going to be a battle in the Godswood?" So that is like, oh, we'll see what happens in the Godswood.
Yeah, that was Maester Lewin.
Yeah, Maester Lewin.
Okay. And then the other guy or whoever said it that words of war become acts of war.
That was probably Roderick. Mr. Roderick Castile.
Yep. And then the scene about there must always be a Stark at Winterfell. I don't know if this is a good time, not a good time, the first time that we hear it actually said, but that's when I heard it and remembered it the first time about it.
Yeah, Theon's very eager to go to war too, as well.
And he's got his back. Well, he'll stab him in the back, but well, he's got his back, or I'm behind you, or something like that. Yeah, with a knife.
Yeah. So what's Theon, a hostage, doing like in one of the most intimate conferences?
Right?
We're discussing what to do. Why are they bringing in a Greyjoy hostage into those discussions?
Because he was treated more as a ward than a hostage. Like Ned and weren't Ned and Robert wards to Jon Arryn, right?
Yeah, yes, but but there wasn't any hostility.
Right.
I mean, Theon was a hostage to make sure Balon wouldn't rebel again.
Yeah, but I think they just ended up having a good relationship. I'm not sure. It does. I'm not going to say the I word again, but it does make you wonder. Like, he had to have built up that trust somehow, at least, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, different from the books, but because he never actually, later on when we get at the end chapter, but as far as we know, there's no need for, I mean, there's a reason why he's there, but those later on know, like, no, that was a big mistake. Well, not a big mistake. I
just want to say my notes say village idiot walks right to hair. I just want to say that, and then we can go on to whatever scene you want to go into.
So the only one after that, I think you mentioned, we're still talking about Kit and Bran, where she is actually seeing him for the last time. That will be the last time she will see her son. And what she does is she parts his hair and basically kisses him on the forehead. So that's where the whatever third eye, the seeing eye, or however it's called, normally is. That is a scene where a lot of them are going to see each other for the last time. Their last goodbyes, and they don't even know it. So that's something for us, I think, to think about maybe at some point. Like, how are we saying goodbye to the person? Getting philosophical again.
And Jon and Sansa don't even say goodbye, right?
No, they don't ever have a scene until season 6.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That proves Johnsa.
Oh, okay. I'll skip past this. So it says after that scene is Daenerys and her handmaiden talk about how to please Khal Drogo properly, and then it basically goes afterwards where she tests out what she was told about how to please the Khal.
And it did not take 3 years. Good for you, Dany, and good for you, Drogo.
Yeah, we can skip over this scene because it's basically there's not.
Well, I mean, first off, we know that people are sold to pleasure houses at the age of 9. We get this in episode 2, and every time we see a Dany scene right now, it tends to be very brutal towards females. at least in this episode, especially, you know, I don't know. I couldn't imagine having to be sold somewhere like that at 9. And boys and are sold like that too in this world and every damn world, unfortunately. But anyways, it's that's the thing I took away from it. Just the brutality of this world. It really lets you know how hard and tough this world is.
And also the things you have to do to at least kind of nobody was brainwashing her. It's not like he was trying to change her, or at least we're talking about show right now, not the book. I'm gonna keep stressing that until, like, I don't know, I forget about it. But here we see her again using what she has and what she can do to better her. At least, like, if you say it often enough, you may start believing it. If you say and do stuff often enough, you may think them. So she's using that, I guess. She's trying to play that game, and apparently it's working. So she may use, later on Cersei will say something like, use whatever you got somewhere. Places. That's the thing you have, and Dany is using that, and she's doing a great job apparently. So she found her power too.
I just thought that the whole scene was pretty, gratuitous again. I didn't think it needed to be in there in terms of to basically advance the episode storyline. No, but I think we skipped over another part in the previous scene about Kat again, because I love talking about her. It was like, why did she decide on her own that she's the one that has to abandon her kids to go and tell Ned there, as opposed to basically sending a trusted, servant or trusted person to go there instead, like Jorik, Sir Roderick. Why does she have to go there? Because she basically abandoned her children for this.
I can't trust his words with no one. I think what she said. She can't trust them with her damn self. Sorry.
No, I don't get it. I don't get that. Yeah.
I mean, really, all she needs to do is to write a letter, seal it, and then Ned would know that it hasn't been broken. It's authentic, and voila.
I don't know. Varys reads unbroken, sealed things all the time somehow.
But it's carried by Sir Roderick himself, so unless one of his little birds takes it from Sir Roderick while he's sleeping and reads it, basically seals it back up again.
Photocopier, man.
And what does it take to make an imprint of that? I mean, come on. Just get some same color wax and get a blacksmith to do that thingy, the ring, or however they're sealing it, and there you go.
The stupid thing is, like, in the later season, they don't even do like the whole wax seal anymore. It's just like a stamp, and then they tie it, like, for like when I think it's the first letter that Jon receives on Dragonstone. It's just like a tied up note. It's not like an actual seal. It's just like anybody could really do it. So it's like they
hand it too. They're like, oh, here's the letter, seal unbroken. And then Varys is like, here's what it says also, because I've already read it.
I mean, really, is Ned really going to question that the Lancers, quote unquote, may be behind it if somebody else other than Kat, brings the message? I don't know. He doesn't trust Roger Cassell, who is like his own master at arms since he was a kid, to deliver the message. It must be Kat to do it, Essentially, Kat going to King's Landing basically set off this whole big chain of events, down the line, where the war gets started and everything else gets started. And basically, they start to trust Littlefinger. It basically kills Ned indirectly by her coming down to King's Landing. So it's, I don't know. It's just.
So later on, what else does it do? I mean, if you could refresh my memory. Okay, she goes, she finds him, she tells him, and
she goes, well, because they stop at one of the, I guess, an inn or at something, and then that's where Tyrion is at the same time when he was coming down from the wall. And then
but that was on her way back, right? That was already on her way back.
Yes, it was on her way back.
But I'm just wondering, like, okay, because I think I forgot, like, what was his first? And I know we're kind of away from that right now, but I was wondering what happens. Okay, she goes there, meets with her husband, and what does he do
Littlefinger.
after? Yeah, but what does he do after? I mean, she's the one who gives him the information. He hears it from her. What are his actions after that?
I think he
Well,
just
well,
like is curious about it. Like,
yeah. And also, Catelyn tells Ned that we can trust Littlefinger because he's my childhood friend. A direct quote. And of course, it makes Ned trust Littlefinger, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Again, if Ned trusts Cat enough to trust Littlefinger, why couldn't she trust him with the secret of Jon? Now I know why she couldn't trust her, but I mean he couldn't trust her. But like you said, I mean this trust
Yeah, I
thing,
got it.
man,
I
he's
got
throwing it
it.
around like it's like a ricochet. I just don't know.
They're complicated. They're complicated, right?
Yeah, quick temper, slow minds to start. That's what Littlefinger says anyway.
He's right, probably a little bit to some extent. Yeah.
sorry to get off a tangent. I think we were still in that Doria scene.
Yeah.
no, it's fine.
So we were at the inn, right? We were at the crossroads with
The
Joffrey,
last chunk of
Sansa,
the
and
episode.
yeah. And that's
So,
when, go ahead.
so we're now at the inn at the crossroads where Sansa meets Ellen Payne for the first time, and this is where we find out that he's mute because of Eris. And Sansa is told this by the Hound, where then Joffrey and Sansa go for a walk, where they reach Arya and Micah, who are play fighting with sticks and wooden swords. This is where they start a fight, where Joffrey is injured and Arya and Nymeria run off, and then Arya sends Nymeria away. And then the Starks and Ned look for Arya, but she is found by the Lannisters and is brought before the king. So
Do you want to start on the Sansa rant first, Milt?
I think you can go first. I really have nothing to say as of yet about this, other than the typical Sansa stuff.
Okay, we see definitely in this. Look, this is why people don't like Sansa. I don't say that I don't like Sansa. I'm either or. We know Kinsey loves Sansa, but we can see why people get
nice walking her dog.
That's very nice of you to say, Mel. But we see that she's still she's caught in her childhood fantasy. Yes, so is Arya, but she's caught in it to the point of delusion, which I've been there as a child before, but there's still no excuse for it. And I'm pretty sure Joffrey would have killed Arya had Nymeria not stepped in at this point. And the only thing Sansa can say this whole time is you're ruining everything. And we really get to see Joffrey's true self.
I think you froze just for a little bit.
Where at?
Like 10 seconds ago.
Oh gosh. Well,
it was about how you see Joffrey's true colors.
Oh yeah, we start to see Joffrey's true colors, and I love this. I love the part where Arya throws his sword into the river. That's the Trident, right? Aren't they at the Ruby Forge or near the Ruby Forge? If I'm not mistaken, somewhere in there. Whatever. Go ahead, Milt.
Yeah, it's weird because I really didn't get Sansa's attitude towards the whole thing, especially maybe she was drunk from those 2 sips of wine that Joffrey had given her, but surely she's seen Arya and the butcher's boy Micah play fight before, and then to have this attitude like they shouldn't be doing that and basically encouraging or not caring whether or not Joffrey basically starts torturing the boy, cutting his face and stuff like that for doing this, basically with fighting with a highborn essentially is what the affront is. I don't know. It's just it's Sansa being Sansa, right? All she cares about is You know, all she cares about is being with Joffrey. Joffrey's like the knight in shining armor and blah 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 blah. And yeah, I mean, it was really weird. I mean, she wouldn't even defend her sister as Joffrey was basically slashing at her with his sword. Like, I mean, he was there to kill her, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we see all kinds of crazy coming out. And I'm just surprised how blind she was. And I mean, yeah, I don't get it. I mean, she's a slow learner, isn't she? I mean, she does admit it, but dang, it took her many, many years to take care of that. I mean, she saw, and he was actually in that hall, right? Are we there or not yet? Where
Yeah.
they have to defend
Yeah,
themselves.
basically, it's
Yeah.
just like right afterwards.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
he's
talk
just
about that.
smiling, like almost laughing. He's on the border, like just bursting and like ha ha ha, you know, like just smiling and the light where her dog is gonna get killed, and he's just smiling at it. She's crying, and it's awful. And at that moment, any normal person who with normal like love and infatuation, I guess are blind, but dang, that girl needs glasses. Seriously, it's like it was awful.
yeah, you know, and love and infatuation it isn't an excuse to basically let your sister be killed, almost killed by by that person. I mean, she doesn't know him well enough to not to protect her own sister. I mean, she didn't even tell Joffrey to stop, right? She kept on telling Arya to stop, and then she was
Yeah,
ruining
the room.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Marsha Brady or like Jan Brady was doing, or whoever whoever the pretty bunch of people were whining. He was the same kind of whining going on. So it was just, I don't know.
Isn't an excuse, but I would argue that Sansa was the most coddled of all the children. She was definitely Kat's favorite to her detriment, and that's why I think she couldn't. She was stunted in learning. She was sheltered to the point of being oblivious to every damn thing. This is not an excuse, and this is just where I think she's coming from as a character. I'm guessing. I'm trying to understand it, if that makes any sense. Because she is young and very oblivious, and Arya has been running around playing with the boys, making Jory chase her around. Oh, Arya underfoot. Oh, I love her in the books. That's just so fantastic. But uh, Arya has seen the grime already, where Sansa hasn't. Not until this point right here, and she's about to get a dose of reality, and even though it slaps her in the face at this point, she's still not blaming the right people. But go ahead, Sassy Sansa, defend your character.
Well, to like I guess that point of her being coddled, she is Ned and Catelyn's first daughter and first, I guess, child post the whole Ned and Catelyn plus I guess the Jon drama. So she was probably probably very coddled by Catelyn because she was the first daughter and she was like the one that Catelyn could be like very close to and very protective of. And she was like raising a future High Lord's daughter at this point. Like she was going to grow up and be the prized possession for the Stark family and continue that sort of, I guess. Like I don't know, like she would be the best person at least for that at that point for an alliance that would be I guess like more traditional compared to Arya, who wants to play with her brothers and sword fight and play in the mud, like kind of thing. So for Catelyn, she found her perfect daughter was happened to be her first daughter, and subsequently after that, she just had more children. And even though she cared for Bran in the end, she didn't really care about the other children as much, besides Robb and then Bran and I guess Sansa. So this at this point in the story, I'll just clarify, I wasn't the biggest person on Sansa. It was like later on after she had went through life experiences that changed certain things. Like I would say probably after season 4 into season 5 is when I was really more sympathetic to the character. Because of obviously things that had happened. But anyways, we can move on to the end where there's a trial about Joffrey's injuries and how one of the direwolves must pay for the price after a disagreement about how they must be punished. And it ends up being Sansa's direwolf lady that has to pay the price, as they cannot find Nymeria anywhere. And they're both, Arya and Joffrey, will be punished because of this. And we see that Ned goes to kill Lady, as he says that the wolf is of the north and she deserves better than a butcher. And then upon Lady being killed, Bran wakes up and we end the show there.
So I will just bash Robert Baratheon in this scene. The man has no testes left, for lack of a better term. I don't know. It's like he turns a blind eye and he does not want to deal with any drama, even though it's his drama that he has to deal with. He's the king. He wants none of the responsibilities, and he just wants to be done with it. And this is the perfect example of this. Not even his supposed best friend in the world, who helped him win the rebellion, could get any sympathy from him out of this, which makes no sense because he hates Cersei, but yet he tries to do everything to please her, but yet they don't even sleep together. So I really could not understand what Robert did there. And,
Yeah, I mean, he's indebted to like Cersei's father, so maybe that plays a part of all this, all this stuff that between him and Cersei, in terms of like, I mean, he doesn't want to start causing trouble between them and the Lannisters in general, right?
Go ahead, Elamar.
With that, it was just weird, because I mean, here in the comments, somebody said something about Cersei, that it's her fault, or that she let it, for allowing, like, for TD says Cersei is a bastard for allowing that, and I think that she was the one who actually started it, because wasn't she the one who said like, oh, what about the wolf? Like, she was the one provoking it, the whole thing. Like, she was, what about the justice for this, justice for that? Women maybe back then didn't have that much power, but their words, like a little bit here, like they could be that whisper in the ear, getting the action going for their own cause. And then when Lady is killed, like Lady is killed because of what Cersei said. So I'm thinking for later, like a image of Cersei killing Lady, and then in a way she's killing Sansa with all that. But also the word lady is, I guess, ladylike and gentle and nice and polite. So Cersei eventually is the one who kills all that is nice in Sansa, and Sansa has so much of revenge, and that's one of the reasons I'm thinking that both Arya and Sansa have a reason to kill Cersei. And for me, it would be an epic thing if actually that happened, because when we see that scene where the two sisters are next to the father, right next to Ned, Sansa is crying and just kind of not even looking at Cersei, just letting all the emotions out, just like completely broken. And then we see Arya right in front, like Arya is looking like this, Sansa's looking like that, and then Arya in a way is channeling that. They're looking at each other, well, not at each other, but like your Sansa looking at Arya, kind of towards Arya, and Arya looking at Cersei with this death stare, complete death stare. Like there's not even sadness, there's not anger, there's just like, I'm gonna get you one day, lady. Like you're gonna pay for this. Like there's hate, not anger, just hate and revenge in her eyes. So I would be an awesome thing if the channel would be like this. Sansa has a reason through Arya, and Arya is gonna do what I want her to do.
Yeah, I think Arya was pretty cool with that death stare at the end. But I mean, do you guys think Cersei was truly genius in basically bringing Sansa up in the trial as a witness, knowing that she would not go up against Joffrey, or was she just gambling on that? Yeah, it's. I mean, I thought Cersei was genius with that, because I think she really knew that Sansa would not go against Joffrey's word, because probably she was the same exact way as a child. Being all starstruck by probably other people, especially like something like Rhaegar, right? When she was a kid. Yeah, Sansa bothers me too. So you see her crying over all this, and yet she's blaming her dad, could possibly blame Cersei, but not blaming Joffrey for all of this. And even after her direwolf gets killed, she still is infatuated and in love and starry-eyed over Joffrey. This is what makes Sansa in the first season so so crazy, so intolerable.
That's what I don't like about her. The only thing I don't like about that, she is still the whole thing, fool me once, fool me twice. But Lord, like seriously, lady, lady. I get the idea of, okay, we've all probably had crushes at some point when we were little, younger, growing up, teenagers. But if somebody hurts you like that, and that is a lot of pain, you kind of snap out of it. At least you technically should, if you are all right over there, like if there's no like issues. Like you get hurt and it hurts enough, then you see, okay, this is not all lovey-dovey. This person is actually not worth it, not worth the whatever is happening. So, and she doesn't learn it, and that's what I don't like about that. It made I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
She sees it as basically Arya started it and did it, and then her dad finished it, which makes no sense because Ellen Payne was gonna do it. So what if Ellen Payne would have did it? Then where would her anger probably just would have gone at Arya at that point? I do like my favorite part of that scene was Arya, liar, 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 liar. That killed me. I die laughing every time I see that because I mean, all Sansa had to do was say I don't know, and Cersei is brilliant. She is super brilliant in the show. I would say she is very crazy in the books and makes a lot of mistakes, which makes it more interesting in the books. But I do love her show character. That's why I think she's been kept around so long, and I have no complaints with that. I love to hate her so much. But as far as Sansa goes, yes, she's just a confused girl that's believed every story she's been told about all the knights and everything, and then she's just not seeing what's true. She's not the true seeing, so to speak. And I don't have much more else to say about it except that I do like the fact that Ned gave Lady an honorable death, so to speak, when he could have probably just let her go somewhere, just kind of
So you're
ran
saying
her off into the woods, but still.
So then you're saying, imagine Lady and Nymeria have the super PAC in season 8. The both of them show up. That would have been funny.
Yeah, and also, what would have happened to Ned if he did let her go? If he did.
Nothing. He cussed out the king in front of the small council and didn't get beheaded. So I mean, I don't know nothing would have happened.
Exactly. But Ned being Ned, right?
Yeah, my biggest qualm with this is how Bran woke up, but we'll talk about that. Yeah.
You can talk about that now if you want, because
all right. Yeah, I would have liked at least a 30-second flash scene of something happening in a dream sequence, kind of just a nod to the books at least, because I think that was so important to understanding the journey Bran was about to go on. Because the dreams are okay with the three-eyed raven, how they do them. They could have still did that, but we could have had a 30-second, like, the flash we see when he sees the future and stuff. We could have seen something like that, or him falling and a crow pecking at his third eye. I don't know. I just wish I would have seen something like that, because they made it look like he woke up when Lady died, but that's not really what happened. But yeah, kind of like the life for a life thing, I think, was what they were going for in the show. But I'm pretty sure it was at a different time when Bran woke up.
Was it maybe like a blood sacrifice, life for life? Life was given of the direwolf, and the life, since the Stark killed direwolf, that life force went into Bran, and that's maybe why he woke up. I'm just
Not in the books, but
no, but with the show,
that
right?
might be what they were going for in the
We're
show.
talking show, but
Maybe,
it's
I
all
don't
good.
know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was put to good use as a dramatic effect, if anything else.
Yeah.
Fantastic wrap up, Milt.
Yeah, it was a great, I guess, way to end the episode and leave us all hanging. Like, was it actually Lady that caused Bran to wake up, or did he just wake up on his own? So it's like makes you watch episode 3. And
I think the way they're presenting it, because they were cutting back and forth. Right? There's a Bran in the bed or laying down under the covers, and the Summer's kind of like whimpering or like whining, unhappy, and then we see Lady and Ned, and then we see Bran in the bed, and it rhymes for some reason. Then Ned slashes at her throat, and then breaks. Like it's just back and forth, back and forth. So they are. I think I would say they are hinting that is because of that. If they were just one scene, entire scene, the dire wolf is dead. They go to Bran, and then Bran just wakes up for no reason. That would be like, yeah, this happened. He woke up. But if they go back and forth, then it's like staring at us, like straight like at us, and like, yeah, this is what's happening. That's how I understood it.
Yep.
I think we're finished.
And that's all. That's how it ends.
Yeah. Do you want me to say something witty or?
Do you want? Sure, why not?
I will. Milt kind of stole the show and dropped the mic with the 3-word sentence earlier. I'll just say I really like this episode. I did have some qualms with it, though. It's not one of my favorites, but some of the scenes are my favorites from this episode. I'd give it a solid 7.5. How about that if we're going to rate the episode? Might as well do it. Fill up some dead space and end this on a good note. Milt, what would you give this episode?
I mean, I probably would give this episode probably a 7 or 6.5 to 7, only because I think some of the logic flaws in it were kind of unforgivable. Especially with the whole Sherlock Catelyn episode. And yeah, and also the two kind of gratuitous Dany scenes I didn't think needed to be there in order to advance the plot line. So 6.5 to 7 is what I would do.
Yeah, I'd say about a 7. Because it wasn't the best episode. It was like more of a filler episode compared to obviously the pilot, but we'll be moving along with all these episodes, and we'll see at the end. Can give a rating, I guess. What does LMR think about a rating for this episode?
I wouldn't give it like the highest scores, but anything under 5 would be unfair. So I'm thinking closer to 6 and 7. For it.
LMR. I've never heard you rate something that low. I've never heard you rate something more than a 7.5, and that was on a bad episode of something. Holy crap, LMR.
Well, this is Game of Thrones. We're not talking about Westworld, so there's a lot of stuff. There's so many highs over there, and some of the lows too. But I guess I don't like I don't want to call it filler, because there was a lot of information being dropped over there. So maybe I should lean more towards 7, because we needed that. We needed to find out the history, why she's angry. We needed to see, the crazy side of people, and we needed. I guess some people needed to see what was happening to Dany and how she'll. If those scenes were not there, I guess they were done for a reason, to show how she'll be powerful, because for some people you can't expect them to just make a connection. Oh yeah, she is powerful, she's going to be in charge. But when was she not in power? Like, they would have to say like, oh, he's doing this to her, instead of saying. They basically showed it for those who need visual aids to understand stuff. Maybe that's why I'm rating it like kind of not the highest, because there was a lot of information and they had little time. They couldn't stretch it forever. It's not soap opera, so it's limited. So maybe that's why I'm giving it that. I wasn't like completely blown away by anything huge. It was just a lot of information. So I was satisfied with the info, but I was waiting for something big to happen, which it didn't.
I wasn't cutting you off. I was just I would just say in between this episode and the next couple episodes, somewhere we don't see Kat suffers a blow to the head and loses all of her Sherlock Holmes ability. We'll talk about that though later. Go ahead, Mackenzie.
Don't spoil the next.
Give some shout outs and.
All right, I'll give out some, but you'll have to help me because I don't know, because I did cut out a few times, so I may not got all of them. But we have OTDA, some person named Johnny B. Crazy, Jake Cruz, Terry T, Eduardo Blanco. Hope he's having a great trip. Bubba Husky, Cardinal Doomsday, Milt K. Oh, I don't know who that is. We have a Pack Mule, Living My Rhapsody. Who else do I have here? We have more people up there. Dog Sidious, Ben Hogan. What everybody who doesn't watch Ben's Drink and Know Things podcast should watch it because he needs more subs. The whole channel needs more subs than they already have. We have, who else was in?
Branwick was in. And for some reason, my phone will not let me go through the whole chat anymore.
Chrissy
like it used to.
stopped by for a second. Who else was here? Oh, BBM, or no, now he's known as Fandom D Saint. J.R. Rowley was in here at one point. Who else was in here? And yeah, I can't scroll much farther back because I did stuff. But if I missed you and for the shout out section, please let me know in the comments and I will personally write a thank you because that's not fair. And we can do our wrap ups before we sign off for the next episode.
I'll do it quick and I'll let everyone else shine. Thank you so much, Kenzie. Hashtag Sassy Sansa. Everybody get it out there. I really appreciate you having me on your channel. Thank you so much, Milt, for coming on. And my co-host, LMR. It was so fun to have you and get to talk to you today. You know where to find me, Johnny B. Crazy. My new Twitter handle is Johnny B. Crazy, JBC in all caps. And yeah, check it out. Check out everybody's channel. They're awesome. Don't everybody speak at one time.
Sorry, I was dropping some links. So I'm like, oh my god, I need to go back. I need to find the button, and I know where the button is. So yeah, and I muted because nobody's saying I'm muted still. So for us, let's see. I'm saying us. Johnny and I are doing Mondays Westworld season 1 episode. I forgot which one. Maybe 8, 9, probably 9. I'm pretty sure 9. That's Mondays in the evening Central Time, 8 Central Time. I may be doing some more stuff with Doctor Who later on, and I will be trying to continue this series with Johnny on Ancient Aliens at some point. What else am I doing? I guess that's all. Thank you for having me. Chad, thank you for chatting with me. Milt, awesome to be on the panel with you again. Kenzie, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure every time here. So thanks again. Milt?
Yeah, thanks to Mackenzie and Johnny and Almar for letting me be on this panel. As usual, really, really, really nice and great discussions. And I hope to be on the next one as well as we get into Lord Snow. Anyway, just as a reminder that you can find me as well as others on the Citadel Trivia. That's every Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And one last thing, remember, kids, it's all fun and games until somebody loses an eye. That's it.
Fantastic. Can I just say I'm having a Westworld stream on Friday, It's going to be in the afternoon, but I'm not sure when. It's going to be on specific character breakdowns. Hopefully I can have LMR on with me if we can get the time right. So be looking for that thumbnail, and I won't interfere with trivia, I swear.
All right, all the streams, all the time. And I want to thank everybody for showing up today to talk about Season 1, Episode 2, The Kingsroad. I want to thank my lovely panel for their opinions and their insights and creating a great discussion for us, and for the chat providing some good insight and their thoughts on this episode. Even though it's not the best one, we all kind of deal with the Catelyn hate at all the times. So I think we even made the comment of who wants to rant first was a new section of this that we can go through. But for me, you can find me here. Hopefully, eventually soon, I can get out a new video. Starting up college again is going to make me a little bit crazy, but yeah. And Johnny is saying that there should be a Village Idiot, aka the Catelyn Talia, live stream coming soon. I don't know on whose channel that will be on, but we will do it for you. And I hope everyone has a great night and the rest of their week. And have a great night, guys. Bye.